Hello, Hey Boomer community. My name is Wendy Green, and I am your host for Hey Boomer. And Hey Boomer is a show for those who have already transitioned or who are getting ready to transition. Sorry about that. To retirement and are asking themselves, what's next? So we cover a lot of topics on this show, and this month we are focusing on health. We have a guest that's talking about mental health. We're talking about physical health today. We've talked about relationship health. We're going to be talking about emotional health. So my goal with Hey Boomer is to leave the audience inspired that this next chapter of your life can really be a fulfilling and meaningful chapter of your life. Hey Boomer is brought to you by Road Scholar, the not-for-profit leader in educational travel for boomers and beyond. They offer expert-led adventures to all 50 states and more than 100 countries. To learn more, you can go to road, R-O-A-D, scholar.org/heyboomer. That's going to take you to the national parks page because that's my bucket list. But you can look at all of their trips, local and international and online, if you just go to roadscholar.org/heyboomer. So when I was preparing the topics for this month of health, I knew that I wanted to talk about healthy eating. Nearly 43% of adults aged 40 to 59 are overweight or obese. And among those 60 and older, 41% are obese. As part of the Hey Boomer community, living healthy lives is part of living meaningful, fulfilling lives. And I know that we have all tried a multitude of diets with mixed success. So when I read about the Whole Body Reset program in the AARP magazine, I felt confident that this would be a reasonable program based on science and not the diet of the month. I am really looking forward to sharing some of what I learned when I read the book, The Whole Body Reset, and introducing you to one of the co-authors today, Heidi Skolnik. So who is Heidi Skolnik? She is a nutritionist and exercise physiologist, and she has appeared on national media, including the Today Show, Live with Kelly and Michael, and the Food Network. Heidi oversees performance nutrition at the School of American Ballet and the Juilliard School, and has been part of the Women Sports Medicine Center at the Hospital for Special Surgery for over 20 years. She previously served as team nutritionist for the New York Giants, the New York Knicks, and the New York Mets. She sits on the advisory board of the National Menopause Foundation and served on the board of the National Osteoporosis Foundation for 10 years. Heidi is the author of Grill Yourself Skinny and co-author of Nutrient Timing for Peak Performance and the Reverse Diet, as well as the co-author of The Whole Body Reset, which is what we're talking about today. So as part of today's show, I am offering 2 copies of The Whole Body Reset to my listeners. To get a copy, here's what you need to do. You first need to send an email to your friends and family and invite them to subscribe to Hey Boomer. And the link is on the screen. It's bit.ly/heyboomer-subscribe. Copy me on the email that you send so that I know who asked friends to subscribe. I promise not to email your friends, but by the end of the week, I will see who got the most friends and family to subscribe, and the top 2 listeners will win a copy of The Whole Body Reset. So looking forward to giving these books away because you're going to love them. But before I bring Heidi on, let's do my never too old stories. So the first one is about a man named Hugh Calkins. And Hugh practiced law for more than 30 years in Cleveland, Ohio. He originally studied engineering at Harvard and was editor of the Harvard Crimson. He graduated early and enlisted in the Air Force. And when he was out of the service, he went to Harvard Law School. When he retired from his law practice, Hugh went to John Carroll University to get a teaching credential, and he taught math at inner city schools in Cleveland. Eventually, he started a charter school and ran an organization called Initiatives in Urban Education. Upon his death at 90, Hugh's son wrote, he cared deeply about injustice, poverty, the rule of law, and the right of every child to a high-quality education. So how cool is that? He totally reinvented himself from a lawyer to a teacher and an advocate for quality education. I loved that story. My second story is about Carol Burnett. Carol Burnett, who you all know, she was born in 1933 and started out as a shy, sad girl whose parents were alcoholics. She was raised by her grandmother. At UCLA, she studied theater arts and English, but she left early to move to New York and pursue musical comedy. Her first real success came in 1959 in a musical comedy called Once Upon a Mattress, for which she was nominated for a Tony Award. She then became a regular on The Gary Moore Show and appeared in the special Julie and Carol at Carnegie Hall with Julie Andrews. The Carol Burnett Show debuted in 1967. Over time, won 23 Emmy Awards, and the show ended in 1978. So that's just 11 years, and it seems like it was on like so much longer than that. But it certainly has continued in syndication. In 2017, at 84, CBS aired the Carol Burnett Show 50th Anniversary Special. And during this show, Carol said, they said that variety comedy shows were a man's game because it hadn't been done before by a woman. But that doesn't mean it couldn't be done. And Carol sure proved that it could. She is now 89 years old and still going strong. So let me invite Heidi to join us. Hello, Heidi.
Hello, I'm inspired.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's very exciting to always find these great stories. And so you are going to inspire people too, though, with this book.
Hope so.
Oh my gosh, I'm sure. But just from the little bit I know about you, I've really enjoyed that. So you have written a few other books, Heidi, about nutrition and diet and exercise and all that. So why now? Why a new book about the whole body reset? Let me show it to people.
Thank you. Well, to begin with, actually, I got a call from Steve Perrine, who is the co-author, and he is an executive editor at AARP. And the question that he fielded all the time from their 38 million, members was, I used to be thin and now I'm not. I eat the same, I exercise the same. What's going on? And he is a journalist, and he has been in this space for a long time. But he felt like he wanted to reach out to someone who is more steeped in the science. And I have to say, the science is really strong in this book. Every single line has been fact-checked, which I appreciate. And I had known Steve from the early days and on up. And so he reached out, and I was so excited because, I've aged in.
Right.
And so this is near and dear to myself, my body, my friends, my colleagues. This is really an important topic. And the science there's parts of it that are very new. There are parts of it that have been established for a while, but nobody, as you know, and as your listeners know, we are not particularly of the age where a lot of media pays attention. Popular consumer-driven media is geared toward younger people, as are the diets out there. Mm-hmm. And so this whole idea, and we'll get into it, protein pacing and maintaining muscle is just essential to our health and well-being. And I'm thrilled to be able to have a platform in which to share this information.
It is so steeped in science. That's really did impress me and help me absorb the information. Like, I mean, I can read one of these other diet books. They'll tell you what to do, but not why. So I really did appreciate
And the
this.
truth is, often, there are some, and again, I don't know how much you want me to jump ahead. I'll even say there's something like, let's say, the Mediterranean diet, which has a lot of science behind it for sure. And 100% can get behind that and support that and that style of eating, but it still doesn't address our needs of, midlife and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what this does. Whatever, in the whole body reset, whatever you want to follow, whether it's vegan, whether it's vegetarian, whether it's the DASH diet, whether it's the Mediterranean diet, you'll learn how to adapt it for the needs as you age. And
Yeah.
that's really important. And then, of course, there are a lot of diets out there that are not steeped in science, that are just that you may lose weight, but that doesn't mean you're losing healthy weight or becoming healthier for having lost weight. In fact, you're losing a lot of muscle.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. But I want to start with a question that probably most of us have, and that is the whole idea of our metabolism slowing down. And that's why we are eating the same way and doing it, and we're not losing weight, we're gaining weight. So would you address that?
And it's interesting because even the lead researcher that came out with this really landmark study in 2021 said he thought it was going to be about metabolism. When we started writing the book, we thought it was going to be about metabolism. And it turns out our metabolism does not slow down as we age. And so what that means is that any individual cell is still able to metabolize and do what it needs to do. Right. So that doesn't happen until after 60. And even then, not so much. So it is not our metabolisms. It's something else. And what that something else is starting between ages 30 and 40, a natural part of aging is we begin to lose muscle. When we're younger, we're in a growth phase. And then we slow down and our muscle's turning over, but we don't build it back. We don't maintain or build it back. So every year we lose a little less than about 7.7%, a little less than 1% of our muscle every year. So you can imagine between 40 and 60, that's a significant amount of muscle. And as we, 60 on. Now, it doesn't mean that's not inevitable. There's something we can do about that to maintain our muscle. But as we lose muscle, then our metabolism slows only because we don't have as much metabolically active tissue in our body, right? Our fat is not as metabolically active. It's our muscle that is. And it does not lose its ability to, our metabolism, right, again, doesn't change, but we don't have as much muscle that is metabolically active.
Okay, so let me see if I understand, okay? Because like I've already seen a comment here, well, not metabolism, right? Like all of us love that as our excuse. But I think what you're saying is by losing muscle, it's not that our metabolism is slowing down, but the ability of our cells to metabolize is not as efficient. Is that what you're saying?
No, our cells are as efficient. We just don't have as many of them because we lost the muscle. If we maintained our muscle, we would be fine. We would be the same. I mean, then there's hormones, there's some other things, but basically we would be the same. And so maintaining your muscle is what's so important. And that's what the whole body reset is really about, is how to maintain your muscle, which will help you to combat and even reverse age-related weight gain.
Okay. All right. So a big part of this, and you did stress that to me, like this is not all about just a weight loss diet. This is about optimum health and muscle retention.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So protein timing, that's like a foundational part of this.
So what happens again as we get older, when you're young and you drink that glass of milk, 8 grams of protein, it all, you build muscle, right? You see these young kids and they're just like, wow. And then, but as we get older, we are what's called anabolic resistance. Our muscle says like, hey, I need a lot more than that to get going here. And so to press that muscle building button, you need more protein and you need it more often. So you need to have 25 to 30 grams of protein per meal. So in order to press that muscle building button, right? For your muscle to get over its resistance, and for it to get out of bed, you need to have enough. And that's more than when you were younger. So that 25 to 30 grams, many people get up in the morning, let's say even, aside from if you're eating donuts or croissant, or something like that, even if you're eating a cup of oatmeal, which you think of as being nutritious, and it is nutritious, but there's not enough protein. It's not until you pair it with a cup of Greek yogurt or enough eggs, a cheese omelet, right? So that, really that oatmeal is the starchy part, that carbohydrate, that whole grain, but it's not a complete meal. And I think aside from just habit, there's also a diet mentality that goes on where people are like, less, I don't want to eat a lot. But that's one of the beauties of the whole body reset. We're actually telling you to eat more. Right?
You are.
You to eat more, because diets are the worst for losing muscle and lowering your metabolism. You can you can lower your metabolism by not eating enough and losing muscle. But again, it's not because your body's not able. And so we want you to eat more. We want you to hit that mark. And we also want you, we'll talk about fiber, but, hitting that 25 to 30 grams. And for most people, this is not a high protein diet. This is an adequate protein diet. Most people eat a lot of protein at dinner. They kind of save up and then they go, oh, I can relax and I can eat. And whether it's 2 or 3 chicken breasts or it's a big piece of steak or, whatever it is that they eat enough protein. It's just that they don't distribute it throughout the day adequately to be keeping your muscle in muscle building versus muscle breakdown. And when you miss that window, you miss that window. Like you can't make up for it all at once at night. So you really need to be hitting this throughout the day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, even a little bit at snacks.
So you're feeding your system so that it's metabolizing the protein and the carbohydrates all throughout the day, is right. What you're saying.
But the focus so each food group, does do something for your body, but the protein is what is imperative. This protein timing is what's really imperative to hit this 25 to 30 gram of protein per meal to maintain that muscle. And then we could also, again, talk about combining that with exercise and what type of exercise. Now, other food groups also help for different reasons. Fiber is really important. And fiber not only helps us to feel full, which is great, but it serves many different functions. The foods that are higher in fiber are also mostly nutrient rich. So it's giving us many nutrients that we absorb less of as we get older. It also feeds our gut microbiome, right? Our gut health is crucial to our well-being as we age. And so our microbiome, which is filled with bacteria, some are good, some are not so good, but we need them. So we want to have more good than bad. And that affects our immune system. That affects our ability to digest. Like you and I can both eat a calcium-rich food, but not absorb the same amount of calcium if our gut health is not healthy. If one of us has gut microbiome and one doesn't, we're not going to absorb the same nutrients. So fiber really helps to feed our microbiome and keep the healthy bacteria working.
And so is this just like the raw vegetables, raw fruits, or can you also do supplements like the Metamucil supplements or those kinds of things?
Food first is always important because we get a lot of nutrients in food. We're not just getting one thing. And it doesn't have to be raw. I mean, cooking is a great way. In fact, again, we want you to have some good healthy fat. When you make a stir fry, adding some fat to that stir fry helps to you absorb some of the fat soluble vitamins. A, D, E, and K need some fat in there. For you to absorb vitamin D, you need some fat. And healthy fats are also anti-inflammatory and seem to really help muscle, which I don't think people think of, but really help muscle, the mitochondria, stay active and healthy.
And what do you call a healthy fat?
Avocado, olive oil, salmon, all of those.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Keep going, but yeah, and then there's the nutrients that are in those fiber-rich foods. But I'll defer to you. And
because you had said something about calcium earlier, which I know we get a lot of calcium from things like broccoli, but also in the diet, you talk a lot about dairy.
Yes.
And, as someone who is, watches my weight, I'm like, dairy, like that's high fat. Like, really? You want me to eat brie cheese and, big whole food yogurt and stuff like that?
Yes, yes. So, of course, there's yogurt. You can have whole fat, you can have low fat. That's based on your total diet and your choices and your preferences. But dairy is a food that's very accessible, affordable, and very nutrient rich. So we need the calcium, which we absorb less of as we get older, and our needs become a little bit higher, especially for women post-menopause. We want to keep our bone health strong, and also adequate calcium is related to managing blood pressure. But we also, so that's a great way to get it in. You need a lot of broccoli to reach the same amount as you would through yogurt or milk or a piece of cheese. So, people have this all or none mentality, but having, an apple with an ounce of cheese as a snack gives you some protein, gives you some calcium, gives you some fiber, and it's very satisfying. And being satisfied, enjoying your food and being sated is a wonderful thing, and in and of itself helps. And then things like yogurt, again, are fermented and really help our microbiome, our gut health. And so there's many reasons. Dairy is also high in an amino acid called luceine. And leucine happens to be a spark plug for muscle building. So it is not the only food that has it. Other foods have it as well, but it is a bit more abundant in dairy and in animal protein, but it's also found in vegetable sources, plant-based sources, but it is very prevalent in dairy. And so, this is a very inclusive diet and very expansive. But again, if you choose to be dairy-free, we give you lots of options for dairy-free. So it's, if you want to be plant-only, I think you can be plant-based without being plant-only, right? You could be flexitarian. And because again, there are so many nutrients, and the broader the foods that you take in, the more choices you have, the more satisfying it is, the easier it is. Life is hard. So let's not make our eating any more difficult than it needs to be. But whatever you choose, we give you choices, we give you options, and we show you where you can get, fiber, where you can get protein, including plant sources.
Yeah, you do a really good job of that. So one of the things in your book, like you mentioned, is the exercise portion of it. And like before we came on the air, I was saying to you, I kind of fell out of exercise for a while because I've been sick. Mm-hmm. Now I'm better, but it's like, oh gosh, how do I get started again?
Yeah.
So talk about the exercise a little bit, Heidi.
Well, first, I think your experience is one that many of us go through, whether it's because life gets busy and our schedules get disrupted, or because there's an injury and you have to come back from an injury. So one is, I think, self-compassion is really important. Instead of beating ourselves up, is coming up with a strategy. I know for me, I was in a conference in my younger days, and I was listening to the speaker talk about actually aging and exercise and the importance of it. And one of the things the speaker said was that what we do now predicts our vitality in 10 years from now. Mm-hmm. And that just really stuck with me. And it motivates me on the days that I don't really feel like getting going, and my work is calling me, or, some more sleep is calling to me, or the couch and a TV show is calling to me. I think, if I'm not going to exercise for my current self, I'm going to get moving for my future self. And my future self will thank me, which is, so far proven to be true. So there's lots of different ways to get moving. Also, I think scheduling it in, like if you have an appointment, we're doing this now, you wouldn't schedule something else. You go, I'm busy. So nobody has to know your calendar. Just say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm busy at 10. I can meet you at 11:30 or whatever your time frame is. And start in, if you're coming back, you need to start slow. But the really important thing as it relates to the whole body reset is that many of us, I know I grew up in a cardio, running. Like if you had sneakers and running, that's all you needed. It was all about cardio, get on the elliptical and go for an hour. It was cardio. And in fact, as we get older, we really need to be doing resistance training, strength training to, even if you're going to cut back on your cardio, if you only have a certain limited amount of time, make sure 2 to 3 times a week you are getting in resistance training that builds your muscle, that challenges your muscle. Your muscle responds to that challenge, and it maintains or grows or builds muscle. And that, with the protein timing, is the winning combination to stay healthy. Because weight loss, there are people who are normal weight obese, if that makes sense. Just being thin doesn't make you fit or healthy. It's about maintaining your muscle. Really helps your blood sugar regulation, blood pressure, cardiovascular health, brain health. Like, there's so many things, mobility, bone health, so many things. So make sure you get that resistance training in. And it's only 2 to 3 times a week. You can hit major muscle groups. You don't have to do your arms and your tricep, though. Those are the ones that many people go to first because it's aesthetic. But really hitting those major muscle groups is so important to your well-being.
So the muscle health, the muscle strength, it helps our diet. How does that, so if I'm not focusing on cardio and I'm not counting calories, how's that helping with the belly fat?
Well, first of all, I'm not saying that you don't need to do any cardio, right? Like there's 3 things around fitness in particular. Yes, cardio. I'm just saying you don't have to do hours and get out there and do more and more and more.
Okay.
And to integrate doing some cardio and making sure what is really important is that you get in the strength training, and then also balance as we get older, doing some balance exercise. And it only takes 10 minutes. Like, you can do it while you're watching TV or standing online, a grocery store, but you really want to get in some balance exercises, which doesn't make you sweat. It doesn't make you feel like you're working hard, but it's really, really important.
Yeah.
So it's reframing how we, I think just sometimes think about only cardio. Cardio is king when it comes to movement. And then for anyone who this is intimidating to, just recognize that every movement, all movement matters, and that it's just important to move.
Well, you have parts in here where you give an exercise program and you give it for beginner, intermediate, and advanced.
Right.
It's really not hard. And you actually give like 3 different kinds: the HIIT, the resistance, and the what's the other one? Strength. Yeah.
And so, this idea of high intensity, the idea that we really do well with going a little higher intensity. And that doesn't matter where you're starting. If you're walking, it's walking and then walking a little bit more, a little more intense pace. If you're jogging, then you also run. If you're cycling, you do some intervals. So that the idea is that we can really get a lot out of it. Pushes us in a way, it stresses our body in a way that we respond. And exercise affects every single system in our body, including our brain. And it has been shown to help cognitive function. So again, there's just so many reasons to include movement.
But I didn't see anything for like sit-ups, crunches to tighten my core. Is that important too?
Sure, that's part of strength training. And there's a lot of different ways depending on where you are in bone health and all to work on your core and just managing your posture. And as you're doing whatever exercises you're doing. So yes, your core is, but the focus on core solely without, let's say, doing more strength training for major muscle groups, they're all connected and they're all, it's all beneficial.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we don't talk about calories, to your point, because I think calorie counting is very tedious. It's very micro. It really doesn't allow you to focus on the nutrients that you need. And I think, I have found, and this has been one of the rewarding things with this book, we did a panel with AARP staff. We used 100 different people were part of this panel with wonderful results. So we did that before we really wrote the whole book. We took all the concepts and then we made sure that it was working, and then we put it in a format that was out there and you all will see. But we had great results. And then the book came out and you go, okay, well, that was still, that was a panel. They weren't handpicked. It was like we were there encouraging them. What will happen now when it's out in the world? And the feedback has been so wonderful. And in fact, I just did an interview with a doctor for ReachMD, and he too had personally experienced the book with success. and is now using it in his practice because many primary care physicians actually counsel around weight management and health and movement, and has found it to be so simple and not complicated, because there's really only two things you really, I mean, there's 6 different things we talk about, but there's 2 things you have to really focus on. And so that's been wonderful to see sort of that validation for the medical community and the application even in that world.
Yeah. One of the things that you put in here that I really have loved is that in the grocery store, if you look at the protein and you look at the fiber and then you look at the sugar, if the protein and fiber number is higher than the sugar number, you're good.
Right.
Like,
right.
oh my gosh, I was looking at the bread the other day.
Yeah.
Like, well, let's see. That one's got 6 more. This one's got 7 more. This one's got 10. I'm going with that one.
Right. Right. So you add the protein, you add the fiber, and you make sure that number is greater than the amount of sugar. So it's sort of a decoder when you go to the supermarket.
It's awesome. And my boyfriend he's like, add the protein, add the fiber. So say that's 5 and 5, you got 10. And sugar's 2.
That's good.
So, right? So he goes, oh, good. It's a +8.
Yeah.
He subtracts the 2.
Right.
So
right.
yeah. So it's cool. It's a great way to go shopping.
And, and then the other thing we talk about is fruits and vegetables. If there's any diet that you are considering that cuts out fruits or vegetables or legumes for that matter, you want to stay away, right? That is, fruits and vegetables are so rich in nutrients. Those in the whole grains provide what's called phytonutrients, which are phyto from the sun nutrients. There's all these compounds that really help keep our body healthy. And the dark green leafies, which aren't always very high in fiber, but do provide valuable folate, vitamins that really help keep our brain healthy. And so, again, as we get older, although this book is focused on muscle, we do attend to other concerns and needs of our aging body, like calcium for bone health, vitamin D, all of the different, like B12, which is a nutrient we just don't absorb as much of as we get older. It becomes harder for us to absorb that. Some people may need a supplement that may be hard to get from food only, but that's only in animal food. So it isn't in plant-based foods, which is another consideration if you're plant only, to really make sure that you're getting in B12. So we do try to address many other nutrients that we care about as we age.
And I do love that towards the front of the book, you have a weekly what you can eat, and you have me going out to Wild Wings and Chipotle. And I'm like, what? So you try to make it very simple.
We are realistic with how people's lives are. Some people cook all the time, and we have all these recipes that we hope you enjoy, and other people eat out more, and some people do both. And so you're going to eat out. So how do you manage that? Whether it's, at fast food or convenience dining or more fine dining, we give you the tools to be able to do this no matter where you go. There are choices you can make and ways that you can make it happen. As we acknowledge, cupcakes happen, birthdays happen, pizza happens, so how do you manage that? And it's not that, when you said you don't have any counting calories, you're not counting calories, but of course portions, matter. We're not, but you'll find that when you focus on what you should be including and can be including and is satisfying, and your body, is getting what it needs, a lot of those cravings become a lot less. And it's not hard. You're feeling good. You're eating what your body needs. And so it's not so hard. You don't have, when you eat more earlier in the day, which is, I think people find at first kind of stunning because they're not used to being sated early in the day. They're used to sort of getting their hunger up and up by the time dinner comes. And then they do what I call refrigerator surfing, after dinner, like they've eaten, but they're still, that becomes less. Right? That urge to do all that. Just when you eat early in their day, you're not as hungry. You're still hungry, you want dinner, but you don't have that insatiable hunger.
Yeah. And I really have enjoyed some of the recipes in here, but I also appreciate that there's a whole summary in the back that shows the different protein levels of so many different foods. So, I have friends on watching now that are vegetarian, and or vegan even, so they can still do this protein timing, get enough protein, get enough fiber, get enough non-dairy foods.
Absolutely. One of the challenges, again, are even people, whether they're vegan, vegetarian, carnivores, whatever, they might get a salad, let's say, think, I want to be healthy, but their salad has maybe a quarter cup of beans and a sprinkle of cheese and lots of lettuce and vegetables. And that may seem, again, healthy. And of course it is nutritious, but there's not enough protein in there. You're not hitting that 25 grams. So unless you're going to put in tofu, or you're going to put in a cup and a half of beans, or stack it where it's a half a cup of beans and an ounce of cheese and an ounce of nuts, you have to stack it in a way to hit the mark.
And then you talk about hemp seed and flax seeds too, right? As a big part of how to add additional protein to the diet.
It's one option. It's not for everyone, but it is an option, especially those who are plant-based but for everyone, is one more option, as a way to sort of top off hit that protein mark. And for many people, smoothies in the morning. Like if you're not used to eating I love a big breakfast in the morning. I look forward to that. Or in a hearty or substantial one, because it doesn't really have to be that big. I mean, a cup of yogurt and berries and some nuts.
That's what I
had. But for some people, having a smoothie really works for them. And we give a lot of recipes on smoothies and using a protein powder. Again, some people like it, some people don't. It's okay, whatever works for you, but it's convenient. And it is a way to hit your protein mark in the morning if you're on the go, or you just, you don't really, you just don't wake up with an appetite. Although sometimes people who eat late at night, they're not as hungry in the morning. And when they begin to shift, so they're eating more, their calories are more evenly distributed throughout the day, find that they do wake up more hungry.
Yeah.
That's another thing, smoothies, or as a snack in the afternoon, it all works.
Smoothies. And you even had suggested protein powder in oatmeal. So you're still getting the benefits, the heart healthy benefits of the oatmeal.
Absolutely.
I thought that was a brilliant idea.
Actually, I also want to mention this idea of the breakfast, because intermittent fasting is one I find of particular interest to people our age. Is the dietary, they've heard it out there, and there's lots of different variations on theme. For those of you who aren't familiar, intermittent fasting can be where you eat within a certain window of time, like between 12 and 8, or it could be a 5-hour window, or you might skip days or even fast on a day or so. So there's lots of different variations. But it really, a study just came out, another one that we quote in our book, that came out, and I think it was in JAMA, Journal of the American Medical Association, very well done. And it looked at a control group and an intermittent fasting group, which basically means you're missing breakfast. And when they were both calorically even, both groups lost weight. Like there was no magic. It wasn't more weight loss with intermittent fasting. When it was controlled and both were having the same amount of calories, both groups lost weight. But the control group maintained, and by eating 3 meals a day, maintained more muscle. So when you lose weight, you lose muscle no matter what, it's how much. So the intermittent fasting group lost 60% muscle.
Wow.
30% fat. And the control group lost 30% muscle, which meant 30%, 30% muscle and 60 and 70% of fat. So big difference.
Yeah.
So I do not recommend for our age group intermittent fasting. I think you can use sleep as if you can stop eating after dinner and then wake up the next day, that's your intermittent fasting.
There you go.
Hours. There's even some evidence, though, for some people who are really losing muscle and sarcopenia, that having a higher protein snack before bed can be beneficial and not affect weight.
So Heidi, if we have not been exercisers for years, say, so we've lost a lot of muscle already.
Yeah.
How possible is it that we can regain some of that?
totally possible. Isn't the body is amazing. And the studies have been done to octogenarians, like, into your 80s and 90s, that when you add resistance training, your body responds. Now, again, you might have to start at a lower level and slowly and gradually build up. You don't want to overload without building. You might want to reach out to someone, to an exercise specialist who really understands our age group or whatever other limitations you may have. You might want supervised, training and to go slower and build up. But the fabulous news is our body responds, and you can gain strength no matter what your age.
That is inspiring. I like that. Yeah.
And we can live strong, vital, healthy, engaged lives. We all want, I think I'm going to project and say we all want the same things, right? We want, some people want to climb mountains and some people just want to climb steps, and some people want to be able to get on the floor with their grandchildren, and others might want to go on longer bike rides. So maybe we don't all want the same thing, but we want to be engaged in whatever choices, whatever lifestyle we have. We want to be able to do it and do it fully.
Yeah. Totally. So we are getting to the end of time. So I always ask my guests to give me 2 or 3 takeaways that really bring the message to the audience.
Well, this is simple. You can start with breakfast tomorrow, right? Just start with one goal that's doable for you. And again, I think in the book we do a good job at sort of helping you begin to identify where you can make small changes with big impact, right? So start with breakfast, hit that protein mark. Look at those fiber sources and begin to just swap out to foods that you like and enjoy, but you may just not include. So there's a little bit thought there, and that, I do actually like that. I can do that. And by hitting your fiber, your protein and your fiber marks, you are on your way. And then of course, I'm going to say to begin to get moving. Hopefully if you're only to do one thing, add some resistance training.
Yeah. So you can see that I am sharing with how you can get in touch with Heidi. So it's Heidi Skolnik, SKOLNIK.com. You can find her on her website, and on Instagram and Twitter, it's at Heidi Skolnik.
Thank you, Wendy.
Yeah. And remember, if you want to win one of the 2 copies, which is now a New York Times bestseller. We didn't even mention that.
That's right. It's how exciting is that? It's been on the New York Times bestseller list for 6 weeks.
I know, that's fabulous. So if you'd like to win one of the 2 copies of the Whole Body Reset, email your friends, ask them to subscribe at heyboomer.biz/subscribe or at bit.ly/heyboomer-subscribe. Copy me on the email so I know who you invited, and I know how many people at the end of the week have had people subscribe, and then I will send you a copy of this book, which you will love. And remember to support our sponsor, roadscholar.org, by going to roadscholar.org, ROAD, scholar.org/heyboomer. So next week, we're going to be focusing on happiness and mental health with my guest, Randy Kay. Randy is the author of 2 books, Ben Behind His Voices, One Family's Journey from the Chaos of Schizophrenia to Hope, and Happier Made Simple, Choose Your Words, Change Your Life. So we are going to be talking about the Happier Made Simple, which, as you can imagine, for a parent of somebody that is struggling with schizophrenia, has been a journey. And many of the tips that she gives in the book are simple, yet great reminders. And, we always need to kind of rethink about our mindset. So I think you will enjoy that show. If you want to support the work and the mission of Hey Boomer, the easiest and most impactful thing you can do is just subscribe to the email list, or get your friends to subscribe to the email list, and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcast or Spotify, and leave a review. Also, supporting our sponsors, that always helps them to see that they are appreciated. And thank you all for tuning in today. Thank you, Heidi, for being our guest.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. It has been a pleasure. And as I always do, I like to remind you to live with passion, live with relevance, and live with courage. And remember, you are never too old to set another goal or dream a new dream. My name is Wendy Green, and this has been